The Centurion Project. Written by the 8th Day of Night. The Crystal Empire Interlude. Section 2, Part 3. Elias frowned as he tapped on the line of shields before him with his gladius. Each prod was met with stiff resistance, and Elias had to fight to keep a smile from his face. He found no weakness, not so much as a budge from the shield wall. The only thing keeping him from smiling like an idiot was the steady downpour that made the ground muddy. His sandals squished and squelched with every step, and Elias used the uncomfortable feeling to remain stiff and aloof, forcefully dampening his mood. He made his way back down the line until he stopped before Night Flash. "Good work, First Centurion. If we keep at this pace, we might have a fighting force worth all the time we put into it." The dark blue Pegasus grinned. "I should hope so. We're all really excited to die for you." Elias had begun to walk away at the first sentence, but the second stopped him in his tracks. He cast an eye towards Night Flash. "What did you just say?" Elias felt his stomach curl as he looked at the Pegasus again. Night Flash's face. A nasty bleeding cut split Night Flash's face in two, but it was like he didn't notice. He just smiled on, completely unaware that half of his lip simply didn't exist. Elias felt his bad eye twitch as the Pegasus gave him an unnatural smile. "We're ready to die for you, General. I can't wait." A round of cheers came from the ponies around Night Flash, and only a second glance did Elias realize that they were all wounded horrifically. Pools of blood and gore mixed with the mud at their feet as their wounds dripped and oozed. Missing eyes, ears, jaws, and limbs, and so many different cuts and wounds. Elias' stomach rebelled, but for a moment, he almost saw the image for what it was. "General?" Elias flinched back as a bony hoof touched his bare arm. He rolled on his heel to find a unicorn skeleton wearing Bookbinder's armor. The sight drew a fear-filled yelp from Elias, and he tried to draw back, but the mud stole his balance, and he fell, splashing himself in mud and blood that was slipped between the cracks in his armor. The skeleton tilted its head and grinned at him. "What's wrong, General? Isn't this what you wanted? We did this for you, Elias. What's wrong?" Elias felt another hoof on his arm, followed by another. The cheers became screams, and wails of agony at the ground sank as dead and dying ponies stacked on top of him. As more bodies fell, the stench filled his nose, and Elias did everything he could to fight free, but they were everywhere. Their hooves grabbed him, dragging him deeper into the mud, and their screams filled his head. His vision went black, but at the same time filled with images of his friends and family. A flash of ponies in silver ripping other ponies apart. Bookbinder screaming in his ear, telling him how much he hated her. The feeling of Night Flash's fur, dead and cold in his hands. A blue alicorn rose to the muck and wrapped herself around his chest, with an evil grin on her face. Her horn was shattered, and patches of fur and flesh began dripping off her muzzle as she giggled. "What's wrong, lover? Aren't you proud to see your work completed? Aren't you happy to see what your actions have brought about?" Her hooves clutched at his face, and she tried to pull him closer, to drag him down into the pile of bodies and death. It was all too much. Elias let out a terrified scream as he finally managed to break free, and he left everything behind as he felt one thought in his mind. Run. Night Flash sat upright just in time to catch a fist in the muzzle as Red let out a blood-curdling scream. The Pegasus fell to the ground, clutching at his muzzle as Red lashed out at Scalpel. The unicorn took the hit between the eyes and he fell without a sound, completely knocked out. Bookbinder's voice rose in the air, trying to calm the human down, but the wild animal they were facing wouldn't be calmed. Red swung at Bookbinder, forcing the unicorn to dive away. She lit her horn, slamming the infirmary doors open. "We need some help in here!" she screamed. Red ripped out his IV lines and began to try to get out of the bed, but Night Flash wiped the blood from his muzzle and pounced, holding the human's arms down. "It's okay, Red. We're here. Everything is okay." Night Flash grunted as a fist slammed into his ribs, but he didn't loosen his grip. He saw the fist raise again, but it was pinned under green magic, then a green body.
Please, baby boy, it's us!
Bookbinder pleaded.
We're here! We both are! Just come down and talk to us!
2 royal guards rushed into the room and they lashed on the Red's legs, but the human still writhed and fought, trying to break free. Unfortunately, the human was very strong, and Nightflash was slowly losing his grip. Worse yet, another terrified scream that emanated from the human's throat. It was the single most heartbreaking sound he had ever heard, and Nightflash felt tears fill his eyes as he held onto Red's arms.
Please, Red, I'm here,
he begged.
It's going to be all right.
Loyalty ran as fast as she could after Elias's conscious being. She and Laughter had only a moment's warning that the human had entered a night terror, and as soon as he had, his mind had gone wild. A mixture of nightmares, old and new, mixed to form a maelstrom of pain in the human. And when confronted with such a situation, mortals only had one reaction. They either fought, or they ran. And after so long fighting for control, for peace, Elias's mind had finally snapped, and he had run. Now she had to pursue him on his ground, had to offer comfort to his psyche before it ripped itself apart. She had her work cut out for her. His foreign otherworldly mind dulled her power, though she had to run like a mortal would. She was unused to the sensation, but she kept up the pursuit regardless. Elias wove through the blank corridors and black walls to escape, and after a while, he succeeded. Loyalty slowed her pace and lit her horn, listening carefully for steps in the ever-shifting labyrinth of the human's mind. She felt a bit of calm enter the human's mind, and she cast about it with her magic, searching for the source. She felt surprised as her magic brushed against Kindness's magic. The Yellow Goddess had also sworn off the human, primarily because of his cruelty, but she could feel some of calm spreading within the human's mind. She knew it wouldn't last. He was fighting them, himself, his friends in the mortal realm. He ached for release, escape. His mind and his heart were twisting, becoming darker and uglier as the crystal hearts mixed with shadow. Loyalty snarled as she felt the evil pony's presence. Dark tendrils poisoned Elias's emotions and his thoughts. She summoned a memory door and peered inside, watching as a good memory of Elias sleeping with Moon turned into her attacking the human. He stood his ground for only a moment, and then he turned heel and fled. Loyalty shut the door and opened another, powering as much magic as she could to making sure the memory remained pure. She opened the door and watched Shadow and the human battle once more. She watched the black tendrils of dark magic enter the human's head, and then she watched the human shake each attack off in turn. She had assumed that he had fully broken the attacks, dispersing their effect. But as the fight wore on, she noticed that he didn't ignore the visions. He simply powered through. By doing so, the magic still stirred in his mind, and every good memory they poisoned, they gave the crystal heart more to attack and destroy. It was the good memories keeping Elias strong, but as they faded, he simply grew weaker and weaker. Loyalty sent a message to his sisters, and she immediately felt their magic target Shadow's lingering presence. Satisfied that they could make real headway in purging the human of the pony's evil, she set off into the maze of the human's mind. As the shadow magic peeled away, the corridors became lighter. The memory doors began appearing by themselves, slowly falling into organized sections. Loyalty strained her ears, listening carefully for any sound the human might make. Logically speaking, she was a magical construct within his mind, but mortals always parse their things by their senses, even within their own minds. So she listened, and after a few moments, she heard something. It was incredibly faint, but it gave her direction. At the next intersection, she took the right, and found the walls around her shifting to look like those in the Canterlot Castle. The sounds grew louder in her ears, and Loyalty pressed on. She continued until she hit a pair of double doors, through which she found a large library, as well as the source of the noise. She stepped lightly as she got closer to her target, and when she stepped around a bookshelf, she found him. Elias Bright was in a sorry state. His body was a mess of open, bleeding wounds, almost as if he had just been attacked by the Crystal Heart. Curled into a ball, the human cried, rocking back and forth as he wept. Loyalty slowly crept forward, eyeing him up carefully in case he tried to run again. But Elias didn't seem to notice. He merely rocked, and as she stood above him, Loyalty realized that he was whispering something. "They're going to die because of me. They're going to die because of me. They're going to die." Loyalty let out a small sigh as she sat before him. Using her wings, she dragged him slowly into a hug, and let her horn glow as she penetrated the deepest layers of her mind.
Show me.
Loyalty closed her eyes and saw the world through Elias's eyes. She lived through the images Shadow had shown him, and she lived through the night terror he had found himself in. Then it kept going, showing more faces, more blood. It was a never-ending loop, and figures, human and pony alike, filled her mind, showing her his every suffering and worry, his every fear. They were innumerable, and Loyalty finally understood. She understood Elias completely, but she also understood what she had to do to save him. If he ever found out about what she was about to do, his heart would twist and the love he contained would die. But she would ensure that he would never find out.
You poor creature.
She whispered.
I am so sorry, Elias Bright. You have fought and suffered so much, and now your fear is trying to poison your heart. I am sorry for what you have suffered, and for what you have yet to suffer.
She closed her eyes and her muzzle curled as she began to cry. The hypocrite she was, judging her sisters harshly. Yes, had they not meddled with the Crystal Heart, none of this would have happened. But she was about to make their meddling look positively saint-like. Her horn charged with magic, and she lowered to Elias's head.
Sleep, little one,
He said.
Sleep and be happy. You won't remember an ounce of this suffering.
She plunged into Elias's mind, cutting away every vision Shadow had shown him. Unfortunately, his tendrils had reached too far, and she had to cut away further memories to make sure the corruption was purified. Ultimately, the damage was negligible, with only a few good memories being cut away. But the sheer disgust she felt for directly altering the human's mind was more than she could bear without her emotions turning dark. She felt an emotion that she had trouble keeping in check flare up. She sent a message to Laughter, asking the goddess for her help in remaining calm and on task. Laughter responded by sending harmonious energy into her form, as well as some news that once she was finished with her work, she was to report to the Judgment Chamber. Keeper was calling. Loyalty focused, and with a few more adjustments, she felt Eliza's mind finally begin to calm. She had erased all the dreams that he had experienced since the Crystal Heart had touched him, and had erased all the visions Shadow had shown him. His mind would be fuzzy when it came to the short visit to the Crystal Empire, but ultimately, he would still be sane and as whole as he could be. Scanning over Eliza's mind, the thought to alter things, to change him for the better again, flowed to the forefront of her mind. She squashed the thought once more, though this time took a noticeable amount of willpower. She withdrew herself from the human's mind, and she made sure to drag Laughter and Kindness with her. She brought them over to their viewing room, sending a brief message to Keeper that she would attend him shortly. Beside their viewing ball sat an image of Elias's mind, slowly cooling from a polluted black and red to a cool blue, alive with flickers of gold and red. Loyalty prodded each color in turn, taking samples to taste his emotional state. The cool blue once more held firm resolve, bolstered by the removal of the polluted memories, as well as Kindness's soft touch. The red was a burning hot as ever, remaining untamed and chaotic. Though it clashed with her very being, Loyalty recognized the wild he as Elias. Until he tamed himself, it was left to be. Finally came the flickers of gold, and upon tasting them, Loyalty felt a swell of joy. The human's harmonious element, the part of him that loved, the happy part, but also his responsible core. It was his intelligence, his curiosity, his studious spirit. It was what Loyalty wanted to fortify beyond recognition. It was his pure potential for good, and immersed in it, she once again was challenged not to make him better, not to make him into a pure, harmonious pony. The temptation grew as she danced in the feelings, in his inquisitive spirit. Perhaps she could make him a griffin, or a minotaur. Surely the change wouldn't be so bad if he still kept his hands. Then again, a horn had to sing Utilia's hands, and if she...
Sister, enough.
Loyalty opened her eyes to find kindness gently pulling her free of Eliza's mind, her horn awash with golden light. And as she glanced toward the human's brain, she found it in a similar state. She felt a rush of dread, but laughter gave her a giggle and a nuzzle.
Don't worry, sister. I recognize that look in your eyes.
With a small push of magic, the golden glow surrounding Eliza's brain pushed away, revealing a pinkish spear protecting the human's brain. The magic remained in place for a moment, then seeped deep into his brain. Loyalty let out a small gasp.
What did you do?
Laughter giggled again.
Nothing negative. Merely a permanent advanced level spell against mental intrusions. Something to make it harder for Shadow to corrupt his thoughts, if they meet again.
She then dismissed the image of the human's brain.
And it's a small alarm spell. If any of us attempt to alter Eliza's bright again without permission, Keeper will know.
Kindness scoffed.
He is all-knowing and all-powerful. An alarm spell is hardly necessary.
Laughter grinned.
Perhaps. But go ahead. Try a little alteration. Try to make the human nicer. Try to make him like bunnies.
Kindness frowned and sent a little jolt of magic at the human's mind. She immediately let out a shriek of alarm as her horn charged with power, and she vanished with a pop. Laughter grinned broadly at Loyalty.
Just because he sees everything doesn't mean we can't make it easier to find those responsible.
Loyalty felt a smile spread on her muzzle.
Clever. You have my thanks, sister. Both for the protection of the human and for pulling me away from a mistake.
Laughter gave her a small bow.
We all have our moments of weakness, Loyalty. As much as we strive to be like Keeper, that feat will take a supreme effort that we haven't quite exerted yet. Go on. I have one more thing left to do before we attend them.
Loyalty gave her a nod and a curious look before disappearing with a flash of magic. Laughter dismissed an image of the human's brain without a look, and instead focused on the viewing spear. In it was Elias, sleeping once more in a pristine white bed. Straps covered his wrists and ankles, holding him in place, while a pair of guards stood opposition of the bed, watching him intently. In the bed beside him was a unicorn, sleeping off a mild concussion. Laughter smiled dimmed when she saw two ponies sleeping beside the human's bed, a slight nervousness in their forms. The Pegasus bore bandages around his muzzle, while the unicorn, unscathed physically, was clearly in great emotional pain to the human's unconscious actions. Further away from the castle, a restless alicorn tossed and turned in worry, trying to sleep but only just barely succeeding. That wouldn't do. That wouldn't do at all. Laughter's horn glowed and her smile returned as she set things right. The two guards watching Elias's bed drifted off to sleep, cuddling against one another on the floor. The straps holding the human down vanished, replaced by an extra layer of blankets to help keep him warm while his injuries healed. Moon appeared in the room with a silent pop, and suspending her in the air along with the green unicorn and blue Pegasus. Laughter began to settle them around the human. The unicorn sighed happily as Laughter placed her against the human's hair, as her hooves began to sleepily stroke the human's cheek. Laughter prodded awake a forgotten idea on the mare's head, giving her inspiration for a small idea that might yield joy-filled fruit. The Pegasus she settled in the crook of the human's arm, and Elias did the rest, pulling the pony tight to his chest. The blue Pegasus giggled and nuzzled the human, squeaking in slight pain as his muzzle bumped against the human ribs. The jolt of his battered muzzle didn't wake the pony, however, so Laughter let him be. She regarded Moon for a moment, briefly wondering if she should involve the alicorn so directly, or if she should simply bear witness to the scene to achieve peace of mind. Fortunately for her, Elias had already answered the question as his mind began a simple, yet elegant dream. She let the human's mind wind its path through, but she skipped ahead, finding what she needed. She let Moon drift down, and as soon as the alicorn touched the human, He dragged her to the rest under his other arm. The nervous, worried twitching vanished from Moon's body, and she sighed happily as she rested against Elias. Content that her job was finished, Laughter charged her horn to appear before the keeper. The god stopped her magic with a gentle nudge, and he assured her that her presence was not needed, and he was meting out punishment well without her. Instead, he whispered in her mind,
"Watch, my child. Watch the human's dream. You will be inspired, and you will have a decision before you. I trust you to make it."
Laughter frowned on his words for a moment, then looked towards the human. The smile decorated his face, and so she decided to watch. She lit her horn and slowly melded with the human. It didn't take too long for the dream to run its course. And when it had, Laughter was amazed. Laughter couldn't help herself as the dream ended. She laughed. She laughed and jumped for joy as she squealed and giggled. The human's dream was something that she could have never thought up. It was so simple, so in tune with his very being. Of course he would use such an excuse to relax. Of course that's what he required. She had never truly understood the rigidness in which he carried himself, but now it made sense. It made the peaceful moments, the love-filled moments, all the more potent. If it had really happened, then it would be a memory forever sealed in both Elias's as well as his family and friends' minds. But it was only a dream. Laughter frowned for a moment, then widened the view of the orb. All of the necessary ponies were asleep, save for a pair guarding the Legion's standard. She instantly made them tired beyond comprehension, and they settled in beside each other, snoozing away by the standard. Laughter compartmentalized her mind twice, once to maintain the standard's guard, and the second to prop up and awaken the guards once she was finished. For them, it would feel like a drowsy blink of the eyes, not the restful sleep it was. Doing another scan of the pony she needed, Laughter felt her muzzle twitch into a smile of satisfaction. She closed her eyes and centered herself, preparing for the largest direct action she had taken in millennia. She melded with Elias's brain first, simply taking the dream he had created and perfecting it, inserting in all the necessary faces, where there once was amorphous blurs. Then, one by one, she melded the dreams of every sleeping legionary into one. She included ponies from Ponyville as well. Spent moments gathering all the ponies in Camelot who had the slightest bit of care about the Legion, and she put them all together in the temporary dream. Then, with a smile, Laughter simply let the dream replay from the beginning, letting Elias and his friends live out the wonderful day, all on their own. So if the elements are to be believed, Elias would have eventually died, or not died, but rather gone insane, no matter what, if it wasn't for their intervention. Because they said that Sombra's magic was just bleeding into his mind. Because it is such an Elias thing to not deal with the issue, just push through. And because of that, it innately left a poison, which would have eventually made him go insane and probably kill himself, let's be frank. But man, at least these three elements have been supportive. They don't like Elias, besides Loyalty. Loyalty likes Elias. But the other two elements at least are like, well, this is really bad. We have to fix this. And at least they stepped up, unlike Honesty, Generosity, or Magic that we haven't heard of yet. So, we'll see if those come around. But it's a good idea to make it so that the Keepers could not make him a perfect dream. They could not do it themselves because they don't understand Elias completely. It was Elias' dream, and then they just made it a little smoother, added some faces, and that's the dream that they're going to implant in everyone else. Which I assume will erase what happened with Elias at the Crystal Empire. For him, at least. Besides, of course, Cadence and Shining Armor, if we see them again. Yeah, I'm curious how that would go. But aside, however, who else are probably curious are my wonderful Patreons. Thank you, my tier 1s, Pony Entertainment, Macario, Lord High, Jason, Hyperlink, Jason Master, Bounce, Kylie, Freedom, Dark, Angel, Booth, Lost Nebula, 9 Games, Sword with Immortal, Dreamless, Portal, Steve, and Shadow Angel. My tier 2 is Captain Blue, Shadow Agnes, The Animated Ghost, DigiMax 2000, Elemental Wolf, H1 Wolf King, Padeo 20, Mr. Crazy Deacon, Solar Common, 200 Soul Trooper, Voyol Cod, G1 Antonio Garza, Saint Gunk, Mackenzie, McColas, Nocturne, Papa Lennon, Cloud Zaza, Soul Eclipse, Sword Brother Mordred, Artie Bryant, Rihanna Dragon Wolf, Steel Spark, Styx, Nobody, Andrew Ingram, Rocky 2522, Weewoo, and of course a lot thank you to my Titan tiers, Dark Guardian, Banish Dash, Maverick, and User 1842. A big thank you to my current ones, Biscalypse and Silent Titan. I appreciate your support so much, and it means a ton to me. That aside, however, this has been Firehearth. Have a wonderful day.